You're listening to That Vegan Couples podcast with Natasha and Luca.
Episode number 85, Ask TVC, how to deal with climate anxiety, rage and deniers.
Welcome to That Vegan Couples podcast, where we explore, create, inspire, and laugh.
Okay, so today's Ask TVC episode was inspired by the questions Riley Harmon left for us. Thank you very much, Riley.
Thank you, Riley.
And I say inspired because as we started researching this topic, researching the answers to Riley's questions, we ended up having more questions of our own, and it kind of expanded to a broader topic that we want to talk about today. So thank you, Riley, for the topic and the inspo, and let's get into it.
So Riley asked several questions, and here's what we've selected to cover today. He says, I'm excited that you're bringing back the Ask TVC episodes.
You're welcome.
I wonder if you could talk about why some people deny that climate change is a real thing. I live in a very conservative and animal agriculture centred place, and a lot of people here are climate change deniers, including many of my own family members. So it's really hard to talk to people about how living a vegan lifestyle or just eating a plant-based diet is more sustainable. How soon do you think the world will be forced to become plant-based in order to avoid climate catastrophe?
Very, very good question. We are definitely smashing open Pandora's box with this one. As I said, just two simple questions there, but as I did a bit of research, so much more came flooding in. So we're going to talk about this very broadly, and it's an appropriately timed question to answer because right now the COP25 is happening in Madrid, Spain. So this is the 25th United Nations Climate Change Conference.
Yeah, on Friday the 6th of December, 500,000 people protested in Madrid for School Strike for Climate number 68. And of course, alongside environmental activist Greta Thunberg.
That is a lot of people, 500,000 people protesting in Madrid. Wow.
So very timely question that Riley asks.
Yes.
Carol Wright is a psychologist and one of the founders of the not-for-profit organisation Psychology for a Safe Climate. It was set up in 2010 to help people understand why climate change was so difficult to engage with.
Now, I think that's interesting in itself, and we're going to talk more about this throughout the episode, that the fact that something like this has needed to be set up says a lot. It speaks volumes.
And the fact that this was set up 9 years ago.
Exactly.
Almost a decade ago. Anyhow, so psychologist Carol Wright says, I think we have various degrees of denial as a way of protecting ourselves from the impact. And some people, their response will be to shut down engagement and deny that it's a problem at all. Or deny that even though climate change is occurring, there's nothing we humans can do about it because we are not implicated in the problem.
That is an excellent point. An excellent point. It's kind of like the best defense is attack.
Yes.
In this case, the best defense or the best way of dealing with something is just ignoring it. Like it's just not happening. I'm denying it to protect ourselves. Yeah. Very interesting. I guess what people are doing is burying their head in the sand, aren't they?
Yeah.
It's the easiest option.
It is. And, I understand it. As human beings, we're hardwired to resist change, which makes me think of a podcast episode we did recently with vegan psychologist Claire Mann,
yes.
Myths of Choice.
Yep.
If you haven't checked that out, we'll link it in the notes for this episode.
It definitely is easier just to deny and not change.
Yeah.
Which brings us to, do you remember Dr. Phil on TV?
Yes, I do. Sorry, the reason I paused for a moment there, I was thinking back to something that Claire wrote in the book Myths of Change. Myths of Choice. To deny that we have a choice is called choice denial. It's actually a thing. So in a way, this is a form of choice denial, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
So Dr. Phil.
Dr. Phil, I remember. Great quote from Dr. Phil. You can't change what you won't acknowledge.
And if you're vegan and concerned about climate change, that's
bad times.
It's like the perfect storm.
It is. It really is. So I started looking into some articles about this topic, about how people were dealing with climate change. And here are the key words that I kept finding. I just jotted them down. Anxiety, depression, helplessness, hopelessness, disempowerment, grief. Now, when they're talking about grief, there's two things here. One is the grief about the inevitable impact on future generations. And the second aspect to grief is the grief about the ecological loss. So, okay, where did this
That's got dystopia written all over it. For
Yeah,
climate change. Yeah.
exactly. Like, again, change the word climate change for vegan, and they are all the things that I would say personally I have gone through at some point in the last over 8 years as a vegan.
Yeah.
Could you identify with that?
Definitely. Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
And I'm
yes.
sure everybody listening who is vegan has experienced some degree of
Yep.
either of each of those emotions and states at some point. So I guess one of the questions I was asking myself is, okay, so how did we get to this point? And like, when did it really start to explode? Because as you said, the issue of, well, first it was called global warming and they switched it to climate change. This has been going on for quite a long time, but it's really intensified of late. And well, I kind of came up with Greta. Beautiful Greta Thunberg.
Well, she started the school strike for climate. That's what you're referring to, in August of last year.
Yeah.
So that would have been around the time of the IPCC's report, right? Mm-hmm. And she's known for saying, "I want you to panic."
Yeah. I think she has sparked a revolution, and she has sparked this response from a generation which has good and bad ramifications. So let's talk through that. First of all, as you said, when she said, "I want you to panic," I think that changed the mental and emotional state of a generation. And it started with her. Her personal story was she was very depressed when she realised what was going on with the climate. I think she was like 12 years old. She went into depression. She ended up being hospitalised.
Yeah, and I think this is a justifiable reaction. This is what reminds me of when we speak to people at a Cube of Truth demonstration, for example, and they see the footage of animal exploitation, perhaps for the first time, and we ask them, how does it make them feel? And I know so many people have stopped and said, they're angry, for example.
Yep.
And we say, good, anger is a justified emotion and a normal emotion to feel when you see such gross injustice and exploitation.
Yes.
So feeling depressed over, the imminent climate catastrophe.
When you're 12 and thinking, hey, I've got my whole life ahead of me, what the hell's going on?
That's a normal, natural reaction. One should have that if they're